brief our top story of the Missouri Compromise. Passed in 1820 between the pro-slavery and anti-slavery regions in the U.S. Congress, but primarily in the Western Territories, the Missouri Compromise was an argument that was proposed by Henry Clay. This agreement allowed Missouri to enter the Union as a slave state and Maine to enter as a free state.
This agreement also outlawed slavery in territories or states that were north of the 3630 latitude line, except within the boundaries of the proposed state of Missouri. Stay tuned for Part 2, the history of the Missouri Compromise.
Braille, a new path for the blind.
In 1825, at the tender age of 15, Louis Braille, a boy who was blinded in an accident at the age of 3, invented the Braille system. The Braille system is a method widely used by blind people to read and write. It contains raised dots in different positions to create letters in order for the blind to read. How cool is that? Hello everyone, welcome back. Now to the graham cracker. The graham cracker or graham wafer is a digestive biscuit or cookie, meaning that you eat it. It is made with graham flour, white flour, wheat bran, and germ.
The cracker was invented by Sylvester Graham in 1829 and it was originally used for his vegetarian diet. The 4-piece rectangular cracker is used for s'mores, pie crust, and just a snack. Yummy!
And now, on to how to make s'mores. First, you want to get a marshmallow, put it on a stick, and over a flame. Make sure to turn it around so that it gets evenly cooked on all sides. If it catches on fire, that's okay. Once it's nice and brown, take a graham cracker, some chocolate, another graham cracker, and your marshmallow. Put the marshmallow on top of the chocolate. Put the graham cracker on top.
And there you have it, your s'more.
The friction match. The first usable friction match was invented in 1827 by John Walker. He coated the end of a wooden stick with chemicals, let them dry, and discovered that when struck against a rough surface, could start a fire. This invention made the lives of campers, woods people, and loggers easier because starting a fire was now very simple. Here is a diagram of what the friction match would have looked like. The first trip to California, a journey to a new land.
Jedediah Smith's party traveled along the Colorado River deep into the west on their first trip to California, searching for beaver hunting grounds. The group then chose to travel to California to gather supplies for the return trip. After a tough pass through the mountains into the Mojave Desert, they were then attacked by a group of Mojave Indians and lost several men. Stopping at a friendly Indian village, the men rested and met 2 Tongva men who guided them through the desert to San Gabriel Mission.
2 companies merge. At the beginning of the 1800s, the competition for control of the trade between the Hudson Bay Company and the Northwest Company was becoming nasty. The price of furs was sky high, and the cost of fur trades was sinking at an unbelievable rate. Fur trade companies lost money, and by the end of the decade, both companies were on the verge of bankrupt. By 1820, both Pacific Northwest companies agreed that something had to be done to save the trade. In 1821, the companies merged, making the new name Hudson's Bay Company, even though many of the workers were from the Northwest Company. These 2 companies merging meant that Hudson Bay Company could now run the fur trade with no other competition. Welcome back to our lead story, the Missouri Compromise.
In 1819, Congress considered adding Missouri to the Union as a new state. People in favor of slavery wanted it entered as a slave state. The Union, at the time, was made up of 11 free states and 11 slave states, creating a perfect balance.
Because states in the North had a greater population than states in the South, they controlled the House of Representatives. By adding a new state, the power and balance in the Senate would be tipped towards the South.
In fear of losing the delicate balance, Northern representatives passed a legislative amendment stating that Missouri would be entered as a slave state, but with conditions. The conditions were that slaves could not be imported into the state and that all children of slaves would be set free at the age of 25.
These limits angered Southern politicians. The Senate finally rejected the amendment, meaning that Missouri was still not a state. The Erie Canal. The Erie Canal is a 363-mile-long, 40-foot wide, and 4-foot deep artificial waterway. It was completed in 1825 and ran from Albany to Buffalo, New York, connecting the Hudson River and Lake Erie. An amazing improvement to infrastructure, it allowed goods and people to move between towns. It helped with communication and trade development in the 1820s.
Linking 13 great states to the nation.
The B&O Railroad was the first common carrier railroad, meaning that it was used by the public of the United States, being officially incorporated on April 24, 1827. Created by Baltimore's need to compete with the trade from New York's Erie Canal, it was to run from the city to somewhere along the Ohio River. Construction began on July 4, 1828, when Charles Carroll did the groundbreaking. The railroad will now continue to change our nation on a new path to better transportation and trade opportunities.
Cumberland Road, a path to the new world of transportation.
The Cumberland Road, also called the Great National Pike, was the first national road of the United States. The road began in 1821 in Cumberland, Maryland. It stopped construction and began again in 1825. When it was completed, it ended up costing $7 million. The road was served for pioneers and merchants' main transportation route for livestock, grain, and other trade items. Although it costed so much money to complete, it encouraged people to settle towards the west. The Monroe Doctrine was a warning to European powers like Britain. Delivered on December 2, 1823 by Secretary of State Adams and President Monroe, it stated that foreign powers should not create new colonies in North and South America, and that the United States would view any interference with the lands as a hostile act. Many Europeans strongly criticized the doctrine and threatened the United States. They didn't challenge it, though, and played a major role in shaping the United States and Latin American relations. Now on to our interview with Miss Catherine. Are the Britons a threat to relations with other countries?
Currently, no. Right now, we are working very hard to keep them at bay. If their actions continue, they could be a threat towards our relations with other neighboring countries. So yes.
Do you think the doctrine is favored by the people of the country?
I think that the people of the country are more concerned with expanding the country and finding new land to settle on. So in a way, yes.
How much of an impact do you think the doctrine is going to have?
I think that the impact will be large towards Britain's feeling towards our country. Once in place, I think that they will view our country as a superior power.
Is the United States the bad guy in the situation, or Britain?
Oh, definitely Britain. They're being very hostile towards us already, and all of our efforts have been to separate ourselves from that behavior.
Adam was finally elected as 5th President of the United States.
What is this? The United States presidential election of 1824 was held on October 26th to December 2nd. The two main candidates were John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson, both part of the Democratic-Republican Party. Adams was favored mostly in the northeastern side of the United States, while Jackson was favored in the southeastern side. In the end, John Adams won the election of 1824, beating Jackson with 84 electoral votes. Cohen versus Virginia court case leads to an end.
In 1821, the Cohen brothers decided to sell D.C. lottery tickets in Virginia. This violated one of Virginia's state laws. Authorities of Virginia convicted the brothers and fined them $100. The main problem in this case was the issue in which the Supreme Court had a right to hear an appeal in a criminal case decided by the courts of Virginia. Virginia argued that the Constitution doesn't give the Supreme Court the right to appeal over cases in which a state in a party. The Supreme Court ended up having a right and upheld Cohen's convictions. New lead in famous court case, Gibbons versus Ogden.
After several weeks of arguing, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Gibbons, resulting in the Congress debating if they will supply a federal survey of roads and canals. The case is still yet to be solved.
Henry Clay, a representative from Kentucky, helped Congress reach a compromise. It was called the Missouri Compromise, composed of 3 conditions. It stated that Missouri would enter the Union as a slave state, Maine would join the Union as a slave state, and slavery would be prohibited in any territories or states north of the 3630 latitude, otherwise known as Missouri's southern border. Ben Hardin urged for support but warned the country about national unity. Congress passed a compromise in 1820.
A new political party is created.
In 1828, a fraction breaks off from the Democratic Republican Party to create the Democratic Party. This party was made by Andrew Jackson because he wanted greater democracy for the common political white man. Because of this, he started a movement called Jacksonian democracy.
Death of presidents.
Breaking news! Former presidents died within hours of each other. On July 4th, 1826, former presidents Thomas Jefferson and John Adams died within hours of each other. Jefferson, at the age of 83, died exactly at 12:30, while Adams, at 90, passed away at 6:20 p.m. Jefferson's cause of death was kidney failure, inflammation to the lungs, and amyloid dysentery. Adams, on the other hand, died likely to heart failure caused by arteriosis and debility. Even the time of both of their burials is unknown. Is this a coincidence or not? Here I am at the site of Adams' burial. Hey! What do you think of the deaths? Do you think it was a coincidence or not?
I don't think it was a coincidence. Something seems fishy.
The new state of Maine. On March 3, 1820, President James Monroe signed a bill stating that Maine will become the 23rd state. It will be entered into the Union as a free state, meaning that slaves are not present in its boundaries. Here is what Maine would have looked like.
On to the final part of our lead story.
As the person that created and proposed the Missouri Compromise, Henry Clay was known for being a lawyer, politician, and proficient orator who represented Kentucky and not only being in the Senate, but also the House of Representatives. Clay served 3 different terms as Speaker of the United States House of Representatives and was also Secretary of State from 1825 to 1829. Because of his actions, Clay, or the Pacificator, helped Maine become a state on March 15, 1820, and Missouri on August 10, 1821. There were still strong disagreements before the North and South over slavery expansion in the West. The new state of Missouri. The Missouri Territory was added to the United States because it was included in the 1803 Louisiana Purchase. But before Missouri became the 24th state, some compromises had to be formed in order to keep it balanced in the Union between slave and non-slave states. In order for Missouri to become a state, it had to enter the Union as a slave state and Maine as a free state. Missouri agreed and became the 24th state. Here is what Missouri looked like. Hudson River School starts a new art movement.
The Hudson River School was formed in the mid-1820s by Thomas Cole. The Hudson River School was located in New York near the river itself. This art group started a movement encompassed of landscape painters. They were also very largely influenced by Romanticism. And here we have a landscape picture that was influenced by Romanticism.
Thanks for watching MTBP News.
I'm McKenna.
And I'm Monet.
And have a good night.